This video covers homework for Spelman from Monday, January 30th to Thursday, February 2nd. On Monday's homework, we're first reviewing exponents. Remember, if I have a problem like 7 to the 6th power, my exponent is 6 and my base is 7. In expanded form, I'm multiplying 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 6 times. This is definitely the type of problem that you could use a calculator on. And you would simply type 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. Again, 6 of them. You should end up with 117,649. 7 raised to the 6th power, or 7 to the 6ths. You'll want to complete this table with both the expanded form, the solution, or the exponent form in the cases where you're given the expanded form. In question 2 on Monday's homework, you're writing a numerical expression to represent each statement. The key with these sorts of questions is to make sure that we're annotating. Let's look at an example. The sum of 8 and 7 doubled. Notice that I boxed the key math words in this question. I should be doubling the sum of 8 and 7. So I'll start with the sum of 8 and 7. And I know that I want to double that sum, which means I'm going to multiply by 2. Now, when I simply write the question down in the order that I saw it, I end up with a big mistake. Here, I would not be doubling the sum of 8 and 7. Instead, I'd be doubling 7, then adding 8. To ensure that I'm actually doubling the sum of 8 and 7, I want to add parentheses. Those parentheses tell me that I'm finding the sum of 8 and 7, then doubling. I can rewrite this as 2 times 8 plus 7. Remember, when I have a number hugging the parentheses, that indicates multiplication. For the rest of the questions on problem 2, make sure that you're reading closely and showing me your annotations. Let's take a look at question 3. In question 3, it's the reverse. You're being asked to write each numerical expression in words. For example, to explain A, 12 times 5 plus 25, I might write, find the sum of 5 and 25, then multiply by 12. Notice how in my answer, I specified that we need to find the sum first, then we need to multiply. That should help specify what's in parentheses here. We are finding a sum before we are multiplying. Questions 4 and 5 on Monday's homework are just 2 more extensions of the order of operations. If you want to pause this video here before I move on to Tuesday, now is a good time. On Tuesday night's homework, we start with a matching problem. It says, match each expression in column 1 to an equivalent expression in column 2. If you get stuck, consider drawing a diagram. Show your work in the empty space below. In column 1, we can see that we have a set of expressions in both expanded and factored form. In column 2, we have the same thing, both expanded and factored form. I'm going to take a bird's eye view and see if anything sticks out to me as matching. The first thing that comes to mind is A matching with 5. Here's why. I know that when I have A right outside the parentheses, I can distribute it to each term inside the parentheses, which means I have 1A plus 2A plus 3A, because I usually write the numbers before the variables. That's the same thing as A plus 2A plus 3A, because I don't need the 1 in front of the A. And so option A matches with 5. Make sure that you're showing work on this question similar to what I just demonstrated, so I know where you got your matching from. Question 2. For each expression, use the distributive property to write an equivalent expression. The distributive property is exactly what I just demonstrated here when I distributed A, 2, 2, 1, 2, and 3. Here's another example. In question A, I can distribute 4 to x and 4 to 2. So I end up with 4x plus 4 times 2. Of course, I can simplify. 4 times 2 is 8. And now I have an equivalent expression written in factored form. You'll do exactly the same thing for B, C, and D. In question 3, you have a table that converts from factored form to distributed form. I just gave you 2 examples of how you can distribute to move from factored form to distributed form. But when you're moving in the other direction, from distributed form to factored form, you always want to start with this template. Something times parentheses, in this case, a difference of 2 terms inside the parentheses. Looking at 4 and 20, I want to think, what's the greatest common factor? I know that 4 times 1 is equal to 4, and I know that 4 times 5 is equal to 20. But I'm missing something here. Because if I distribute the 4 to 1, I want to end up back at 4x. And so here, I shouldn't just have 1, I should have 1x. Because 4 times 1 will bring me back to 4x, right here. And 4 times 5, will bring me back to 20, which is what I have here. We want these 2 forms to be equivalent, meaning they have the exact same value. Let's take a look at question. Oh, that's it. That's all for Wednesday. So make sure to complete that table thoroughly. I'll move on to Wednesday next. I said that's it for Wednesday. That's it for Tuesday. I'll move on to Wednesday next. So if you're just here for Tuesday, you can pause now. On Wednesday's homework, you're filling in the chart by writing an equivalent numerical expression. Again, on these sorts of questions, we want to make sure we're annotating. For example, in question A, we have half, boxing that keyword, as much as the difference between 2 and blank. It got cut off, so we're going to go ahead and put an X there, between 2 and X. Now, if I have half as much of the difference between 2 and X, I know that I need the difference of 2 and X. Difference, of course, means subtraction. I knew right away to put my subtraction in parentheses because I know that I want to end up with the difference, so actually having subtracted 2 and X. And so after I've subtracted 2 and X, I know that that needs to be halved, which means that it needs to be divided by 2. And we learned this week that we can also write that as 2 minus X over 2. Any place where there's a missing number here, you can just put an X. The sum of X and X. You can pause and make sure to add those in to your homework assignments. Question 2, write the numerical expressions in word form. Here, we have something really similar to what we just worked at. We're multiplying 2/5 times 1/2 minus 0.4. But we know we need to subtract before we multiply because it's in parentheses. So this problem says 2/5 times the difference of, and remember, when I write something like the difference of, I know that I must be subtracting those two numbers, 1/2 and 0.4. If I wrote 2/5 times 1/2 minus 0.4, I wouldn't be specifying the order of operations. In question 3, you're going in the other direction again. You're writing the word form expressions numerically, so you'll give me a number sentence. And in question 4, you've got a multiple choice set of questions to match the number problems in A and B. You can pause the video here if you're just here for Wednesday. The last part of this video will cover Thursday night's homework. Thursday night's homework is all about the order of operations. I'm going to do one example here so that you can see exactly what I'm expecting from you. When we have an order of operations problem, and you can definitely use a calculator for these, like -5 squared minus 2 times -9 plus 6, we always want to follow PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, remember these are grouped, and addition and subtraction also grouped. So here, I can see that in my parentheses are just plain old numbers. There's nothing to do. And so my first operation is the exponent, -5 squared, which is equal to 25. Once I do my exponent, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the rest of my problem. And my next step will be multiplication. So here, my multiplication is actually -2 times -9, which again, you can use a calculator for these. It's not a problem. We haven't talked too much about operations with negatives, but you'll end up with 18. And so now we have positive 18, so it turns into a plus because we were subtracting, but we multiplied a negative times a negative, which gives us a positive, and we're adding that to 6. And so we end up with 25 plus 18 plus 6, so 25 plus 18 is equal to 43, plus 6 is equal to 49. And again, for some of these negatives, if you want to just go ahead and pop that into a calculator, totally okay, because that is a little bit new, but the order of operations part should stay the same. That covers the bulk of our homework from Monday through Thursday. If you have any questions, please make sure you're checking in with me before the end of the week.